Welcome back to the SwimSwam Breakdown. I'm Coleman Hodges coming to you from Austin, Texas. We are joined by SwimSwam editor-in-chief Braden Keith from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Yin Lee from Evanston, Illinois. It's the in-between day. We have one day between World Championships and the beginning of the Power 5 Conference Championships. How you guys holding up? How you feeling?
We were gonna take a day off today, but then we decided, nah, we'll just record a podcast. I missed you guys. I haven't seen you in forever. Coleman or Yin looks like she's coming from the Evanston prison. What is written on the wall behind you?
I don't know. I reserved like a core room in the library so I could record this podcast without there being background noise. And there is a lot of writing on the wall, and a lot of it's in Korean, so I don't understand it.
And Yin doesn't speak Korean. She speaks Chinese, for those who are unsure.
Well, today we're here to discuss the writing on the wall, the swimming wall, after the 2024 World Championships, because I want to know what you guys are thinking, not necessarily coming out of Doha, but going into Paris. Claire Curzan, I was the swimmer of the meet on the women's side, and I'm drawing a blank. Who is Daniel Whiffen?
Daniel Whiffen
was the swimmer of the meet on the men's side. But I want to know more about what was indicated to you heading into the Olympic Games, because Claire Curzan for me didn't necessarily move the needle as much as other swimmers did.
Yeah, her needle moving was just because of last year, where she wound up in the emergency room and didn't make the U.S. team at all. It's not like she clearly made herself a favorite to win at U.S. Olympic trials in June. Like I wrote yesterday, they need to find a way to get her on the team, just because she provides so many options for the relays, which is something they've proven to need, especially after adding the mixed medley to the schedule. Kate Douglas just continues to swim fast in season. I don't think we've seen the best from her, but she's just doing Kate Douglas things over and over again. So from Team USA perspective, I thought there were more good things than bad things, which is not how we've come out of the last few editions of these meets. Myself included, we've been pretty down on Team USA. And even though this was a smaller team, I think it was a positive meet for them, as much as it means sort of a stepping stone toward Omaha.
I'm a little bit more down on Team USA than Braden is. Really big shocker. Someone's more negative than Braden is about swimming. But because I don't think any of those results prove that Team USA is in a better position than they were coming out of Worlds last year. There were still plenty of missed opportunities for the team in terms of gold medals, and there were a lot of events where they were favored to win but just did not win.
You don't think Carson Foster's 143 in the 200 free is Team USA in a better spot than last year?
Okay, that 143.9. He was a 144 something relay swimmer before. That's not a big difference.
Yeah, but 143 feels cooler.
Does feel cooler.
You're so starved of fast swimming in the 200 free. Our standards are becoming. The bar is very low. But I'm not gonna. It wasn't a bad meet for Team USA per se. There were good parts. I just don't think it moved the needle as much as people think it did. Because like Kate Douglas,
by people you mean me.
Yeah, very good, but still doesn't really have an established clear pathway to gold. She could win gold, but I don't. There isn't like a clear pathway.
Yeah, and I guess that's fair, because I think there were positive results for the American swimmers, but you're right. Nobody came out of that meet where we say, oh, well, now they're shooting for gold, whereas before they were not. So, and as we know, last year, medals weren't the problem. Gold medals were the problem.
Yeah. Really, the only two swimmers that moved the needle in terms of gold medal performances is Pan Genlo. Obviously, he broke a world record. And then Angelina Kohler from Germany, her 100 flat performance was probably one of the stories of the meet for me.
And maybe Tang from China too.
Oh yeah, and her.
Yeah, I feel like as a whole, China really performed well, and some of their star swimmers became more of star swimmers in Pan Zhenle and Tang.
I'm glad the Indian had to say his name first, so now we know how to say it.
I've gotten so many comments about saying it wrong at this point, but and then South Korea also on the men's side had such a great meet.
Well, they started out a little slow, but then they picked it up in a hurry.
Yeah,
that first relay they weren't great in.
South Korea won gold on the very first day.
Yeah, like Kim Woo Min in the 400 free was a shocker. Was an Ahmed Hafnawi-esque performance circa 2021 Tokyo Olympics, right, where he just kind of came out of nowhere and did it. And then their 800 free relay, like I think they have a shot at gold in that. I think probably less so than China or the US or maybe Australia, but
yeah, it's tough to win gold with a 146.
It is, but does anyone off the top of their head know Yang Jae-hoon's best time?
No.
They definitely have always had kind of a flat leg on that relay.
Yeah.
So I should know.
He led off in 147, but then they had 44.9, 45.4, 43.7. So it's like, they got a lot of pieces that are there.
He did pretty good this year, but Hwang Sun-woo has had a few meets where he hasn't been as good on relays as.
That's true. Like Worlds last year.
Yeah.
You know who I was excited about? Taylor Ruck.
Ooh.
Yeah, you know, she had some nice. Did she win any medals? She probably won some relay medals, but she had some nice relay swims, and you know, it just feels like these Canadian
2 bronzes, women, by the way.
Yeah. It feels like these Canadian women are kind of like on this very long stretched thread of holding on to medal position. But you know, they somehow keep coming back. Penny Alexiak, when she swims, just fights back and becomes pretty good again. And Taylor Ruck does the same thing. I don't know. That's exciting for the Canadians, especially now with China. They've been kind of cemented in that third or second place spot in a lot of relays for a few years now. But with China and a couple other countries coming on hard, it's not going to be as much of a given that they're going to stay in that spot. But I think seeing Taylor Ruck back will help a lot because she can fill 4 relay spots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy for Taylor Ruck, but I think the biggest takeaway from her success is that Summer McIntosh will not be forced to sprint.
Well,
she might be.
Let's not go too far.
Well, at least not in the medley relay in the finals like Worlds last year.
Yeah, and the Canadian breaststrokers with what they're doing. So maybe Summer won't have to be on the medley relay, which would be huge for her.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, if she's having a meet, would they put her on any? I mean, it all depends, right? But it's like
it will be the last
count her
of the
out
meet,
for it.
and she'll probably be cooked from like the 5 events that she's swimming.
And they're not going to beat Australia or the US. So like the upside is going from bronze to a faster bronze. I don't know, man. Sometimes people make bad decisions, but that's not a choice that I would make. And they've been pretty conservative with her, so hopefully that continues.
I agree. I guess I'm just wondering if their conservative approach will kind of end in Paris. Like if they'll just be like, well, you're having a great meet. You think you're up for anchoring the medley. And she's like, yeah. Like, I wonder if they would put her on it anyway, if she splits, 52.5.
Where does that fall on the schedule? Is it after everything? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're feeling good, but, hashtag Herbie effect for Taylor Ruck. I did an interview with her when I was at ASU in December, and I think she's in a good place with her swimming and kind of getting back to where she was. But she had 52.9 anchor on Canada's bronze medley relay, and then 53.2. She made the final of the 50 free. So yeah, it seems like she's kind of inching her way back to where she was before, and getting some speed with the Sun Devils. which is good to see. Any other parting thoughts? I know you guys love when I ask this question. From these World Championships, any takeaways that you think our audience need to know?
Am I a bad ambassador for swimming if I say that the meet was kind of boring results-wise?
Oh, I disagree. I enjoyed the meet much more than I thought I was going to.
Honestly, I think both are true. To me, like, it is a February World Championships in an Olympic year, so I think we kind of knew people were going to be at their best for the most part. But 100 free world record, you can't scoff at that. And then, even though the times were not, I think, for the most part, where we would normally see them at a World Championships, seeing this level of swimming long course in February, still pretty exciting.
And I thought there was a lot of good stuff for the nerds. We had a few guys bust: Shane Casas, Greg Paltrineri, Hafnoe, who, I don't know, man. The what you're hearing, what you hear out of
trajectory is not in the right direction.
People around him, it's not clear if he's going to get his trajectory back on track. I guess I'm a little concerned about whether he's going to be able to get back to the U.S. anytime soon, because I think he left Indiana while still on his student visa and maybe overstayed the terms of that visa, which can make it hard to get back. But I'd love to hear some honest thoughts from him, given the success he had while training with Indiana and then making a change anyway. Finley Knox has been injured for a longer percentage of his career than the average 23-year-old has been. So, seeing him run down Carson Foster and Shane Casas on the under the 200 IM, I thought was a lot of fun. Siobhan Hai was kind of mediocre in the freestyle races, but she went 105.9 in the 100 breaststroke, which just makes me want to badger her into swimming it at the Olympics, even though I know there's an event conflict. But with her and Kate Douglas sort of both now having those same event conflicts, maybe the schedule's due for a rewrite. Merritt Steenbergen, man, talk about a story. She was, I don't know if you guys remember her, but she was good enough that we were writing about her when she was 13 or 14,
really?
Which is something, we do covering club meets in the US, but it's pretty rare for a international swimmer to catch our attention that early. And then she kind of had some issues with her coaches and just kind of disappeared. But her coming back is crazy to me, and breaking the Dutch record in the 100 free by half a second. That's a big deal.
Especially with their history in sprinting.
Exactly. I'd love to see her win an Olympic gold medal. I think that would be one of the stories of the Olympics. I don't know if the broader world would pick up on that, but I think that would be one of the great stories of the Olympics.
Yeah, Mara Steenbergen, so impressive. I pointed this out after last Worlds. Compared to the other sprinters, she was still swimming considerably more because she was doing the Dutch prelims and finals relays. She was swimming the 200, she was doing the 200 IM, and yet she was still producing similar or even better results than a lot of her competitors at times. But I just think, in general, a positive takeaway that I have from this meet, because I don't want to be all negative, is that a lot of the quote-unquote bad performances, they're not as concerning as they would be at another World Championships meet, because you think of this meet as like you're training through it. So a lot of people are training through it. You still got a few more months left until Paris, and there's still a lot of time to learn from your mistakes from this meet and be better when you're going into Paris.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I think Shane Casas is a different story. It's starting to feel like things are piling up there, where it's going to start to impact his psyche if it hasn't already. Something seems like it's not working for him. But, with Shane being who he is, he could show up at trials and pop off a 4,900 fly, and it wouldn't be that surprising either. So.
Yeah, I thought the Steenbergen storyline was interesting too, because we saw her swim the 200 free. She didn't even swim in the final. And then I forget where the 200 IM was in relation to the 100 free, but she made the final, but then didn't make it on the podium in the 2 IM. And those are both events we've seen her do very well in. And then the 100 free, she pops a 52.2, and it's like, oh, well, at least there's some speed there like that.
Well,
yeah.
we saw a lot of swimmers, and I think it's probably indicative of how people were approaching this meet. Normally, we see this explosion of times at the beginning, and then by the end, because we have a sense of how this happens because we know how much work we have to do, right? And so, day one, we have 15 records to write. By the last day, we might have one or two. And this meet almost felt like the opposite. Like Bruda was terrible day one. And then was good in the 50. Daniel Liffin was not good day one, then won the 800 and the 1500. So maybe that's indicative of swimmers not coming into the meet with a lot of rest, but then getting some rest as it progressed. Because I assume, even in offbeat world championships, they're not doing 8,000 meter sessions and, trainings in between sessions.
Right. Yeah, like similar to like maybe a World Cup circuit or an ISL thing where you had that built-in rest. Yeah, just because you're at a meet and you're not training. I think you said this in a comment section at the beginning of the meet, Braden, but it's like it's still a world championships, right? Like people are, if you're there, you're gonna try to swim fast.
Still $2.5 million on the line.
Yeah, that prize money.
Seriously. All right. Well, I'd say that's good on our World Champs roundup. 8 days of pretty darn good long course swimming in the middle of
Midwestern
February.
right now.
Pretty darn
good swimming.
It's my Missouri coming out. And now, starting tomorrow, we've got lots of conference championship action. Tuesday,
today, Coleman. The SEC divers started today.
Oh God.
Yeah, the SEC Championships has now been extended into a 42-day meet. So to look forward to for the next month and a half.
Go big or go home. That's the SEC motto. So that's SEC and ACC Championships will start tomorrow evening, Tuesday evening, with the 200 medley and 800 free relays. And then Women's Big Ten Championships, we'll start with those two relays on Wednesday evening. And then it's just the roller coaster leaving the station from there. Let's start with SEC Championships. What swimmers are you guys looking for to make big waves, to pop some eyes? I mean, I assume we're going to get some fastest splits of all time in the 200 medley relay on day one.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what Bella Sims is going to swim. And I was thinking about this today, like if she will go best times at this conference or NCAA season as a freshman, just because her best times are so fast, especially in her like prime events.
I'm excited to see the women's mid-distance and distance swimmers period. At SECs, I know Dune Coetzee scratched the meet, but there's still plenty of really strong swimmers because women's distance is really, really deep in the SEC. You've got Bella Sims, Rachel Steggy, Abby McCullough, Emma Wyant, and Isabel Ivy in the 200. So I guess women's distance has been faster this year than last year. It's not like the fastest times, but it's extremely deep, and I'm just really excited to see how competitive it's going to be, that field.
Oh, I guess I'm excited for the men's sprint freestyles. It seems too obvious, but somebody had to say it. Josh Landau versus Jordan Crooks. Both, I'm sure, have bigger goals this year outside of the collegiate circuit. But I think anytime those two guys are going head to head, that's a race to watch.
Yeah,
especially I guess going back to what Coleman said about Bella Sims. Regardless of the times, I think we all watched her stroke mid-season, her freestyle stroke, and it looked a lot different than it did in high school. So seeing how she adapts to that, if that was intentional or if that was, bad habits creeping in. To me, that, to the trained eye, watching that will be almost as interesting as the final result itself.
Yeah, and I think if she does swim best times this season, it's going to be at this meet because not that Florida chokes at NCAAs, but they usually perform really, really well at SECs and are lights out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if the best times come here, not NCAAs.
What do you think her event lineup will be? Currently, she's entered in 100, 200, 500 free, 200 back, 200 fly, 209 400 IM. You can only swim 3 individual events at SEC.
I absolutely hate it.
I think she'll do 200, 500 free.
I'm leaning towards 200 back.
Yeah, that seems like the obvious choice.
Yeah,
it does. She swam a lot of backstroke this season. I think it's really interesting that she's swam the 100 fly and 100 back at a lot of dual meets, but is not entered in either one.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what people do at dual meets. They swim events that they won't really swim at championship meet. Like, that's why Leon Marchand swims the hundreds all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're at that level of athlete where you don't feel like you need the race reps as much, that works. And I assume Bella falls into that category, but it is a little curious to me that we didn't see her racing like more IM or more distance freestyle throughout the season, but now obviously it seems like that's what she's doing. I don't see her swimming the 100 free, but I would love it if she did.
Hey, you know who else I'm excited about at SECs?
Who?
The Fighting Texas Aggie men. Your got off to a rough start. They were suspended and then they weren't, and nobody really knows they know what happened in between there. And they love to comment on SwimSwam, so I'm sure they'll let us know. But they look really good. I think this year could be Baylor Nelson's coming out party. We all know Baylor Nelson is a very good swimmer, and he's got all kind of age group accolades and stuff, but I don't think he's a name that comes to mind when people think SEC Championships yet.
He did make the World Championships team last year.
Yeah. But do you really think about Baylor Nelson? Like, when you're thinking about, who's going to make the Olympic team, is Baylor Nelson jump into your head? Like, I went to Texas A&M, and it's not the first name into my head. They've got Alex Sanchez, who's the best 200 breaststroker. I think A&M has been kind of building a core for a few years. And then obviously Shane Costas leaving early sort of slowed that down, maybe delayed it a little bit. But I think Baylor Nelson is in that same tier. And I think this year and next year has got to be the year for the A&M men. It just seems like they're due to do something really big. So,
I mean, I think you mentioned this, but just going undefeated in a dual meet season too, which has never happened. Like, they obviously have a lot of momentum heading into this championships, and obviously winning a dual meet is very different logistically than competing in a conference championships, but we will get to really see them show off their depth, or see what their depth looks like at this conference championships.
Yeah, I can totally see them getting second at this meet because Florida's a big, heavy favorite, but Texas A&M, I think Auburn's gotten weaker since last year, and they came second. I think Texas A&M, Georgia, they were all around that bubble, and I think this could be the year that Texas A&M takes that second spot.
I really wish there was more parity into who would be winning this meet, but I think it's Florida men and Florida women pretty soundly.
Yeah. There isn't much parity in college swimming.
I think both Georgia teams are probably better than they look on paper. But yeah, they're just so deep. I can't wait for next year.
Yeah, with all of
next year,
with all of the team switches and conference realignment, yada yada, it's going to be an interesting meet next year. But this year I think we'll see a little bit more of the same as we did last year. It looks like Florida's meet to lose on both the men and the women's side. Let's switch over to the 2024 ACC meet, where it will also be a little bit more of the same on the team perspective.
Can't wait till next year.
We got Cal and Stanford coming in hot next year.
Yeah.
But
Cal and Stanford and the entire top 20 men's recruits. Oh, no, that's the year after. One more for that.
The ACC is the only conference that improves swimming wise when it comes to conference realignment. Like every other actually, no, maybe the SEC with Texas, but
Texas doesn't make the SEC better.
Texas, well, yeah. And then the Big Ten, I guess USC versus Ohio State on the women's side will be interesting.
I think USC at their best makes the Big Ten better. They're down right now, but at their best, I think they make the Big Ten better.
USC is not down right now. They're having the breakout year.
Well, no, they're doing well, but they're in a valley. USC used to be a top 5 team, and they're not that.
Oh, yeah.
But they are. Having
they're on the right side of the valley, I think. But they're still in the valley.
Yeah. ACCs. The Virginia women obviously probably going to win unless something catastrophic happens. NC State men look the same way as well. But what swimmers will you be watching? We obviously have the Walsh sisters and Ella Nelson highlighting UVA. I think it'll be really interesting to see how some international swimmers react to coming back after swimming in Doha.
I think Gretchen Walsh is going to go 47 in the 100 back.
Yeah.
100%.
I think that's.
I wasn't sure if that was going to be controversial or not.
No, that's not a hot take.
NCAA record by a quarter of a second. Okay, whatever. There's so much to watch in this, and the Walsh sisters and whoever else, whatever. I think the thing that matters the most to me out of this is Louisville, the Louisville women, especially because they came into the season with like top 3 at NCAA hopes, and it's as the season has worn on. Abby Hay is not swimming for them at ACCs. We don't know why. We've asked, but we don't know why. As the season has worn on, it feels more and more like they're just like 1 or 2 swimmers short of achieving that. Even though coming into the season on paper, it looked like it was there for them. So watching to see who can jump up for them and fill those slots, those 1 or 2 slots they need, in a bigger picture sense, is probably an interesting thing to watch. But yeah, it's just going to be about Virginia breaking records. I mean, that's at the end of the day what it's going to be, right? I want to see what Jasmine Nocentini does. I want to see, which I know Yin Yin is interested in because she transferred out of Northwestern. I want to see if they put Amy Canny in the 100 breaststroke. They've been kind of talking about that all year long, and it seems like a stupid thing to say, except it's Virginia, and that's just kind of what they do. And then she would show up and swim a 57, and that would be that, and she'd be a breaststroker then. Just what South Africa needs, another female breaststroker. But.
Braden, Yin Yin and I were discussing this right before you hopped on, but in talking about Louisville, I feel like they've kind of reacted to the trend of swimming fast in season, but they're so traditionally a championship only team, and specifically an NCAA team, right? Like they really don't, or historically have not really gone in on ACCs like other teams do. Do you think we'll see that shift, or do you think we'll see them move up in the rankings in conference wise as they're trying to look for those 1 or 2 more swimmers to get them over the hump at NCs?
Yeah, it's tricky because we know the data shows that they always add the most points at NCAAs, like consistently. Not always, but pretty consistently they're number 1 or top 2. And so it's tricky for them, right? Because it's hard to get top 3 at NCAAs if you don't qualify enough people for NCAAs. It's really hard to get to top 3 at NCAAs if you only have 8 or 9 swimmers going. So, I always wonder, like, why don't teams split more? Like, why isn't there more, hey, my top 7 swimmers who are already qualified, they're going to train straight through, and then my next 7 swimmers are going to rest and try to get those cuts, and maybe we can sneak in an extra swimmer or 2. Doesn't seem to be what's done nationally a lot. It seems to be a whole lot of all or nothing that goes on. But yeah, I don't know. It's They have more sprinters than I think people know, but beyond that, especially without Abby Hay, there's just not a lot of names you can point to.
Say that again, Union.
Oh, I said Louisville also lost Liberty Williams to Alabama this year.
Yeah.
It's Braden. It's interesting that you bring up that point because Louisville is historically a championship team, but interestingly, last year, I'm pretty sure they scored less points than they were projected to score, and that was their best finish ever. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they added in a bunch of relays and really benefit. Well, they didn't only get third because of this, but NC State had a relay that was disqualified, and I think that helped bump them up to top four because it was between them, and I think it's going to be the battle. The battle for seconds was really close between them at ACCs. So I think last year was sort of different in the sense where they were lights out at ACCs, then continue that into NCAs, but we really didn't see much of them before that, and I think something similar is going to happen this year.
So last year, Louisville was seeded to score. Why isn't this article telling you what I want to know? Here we go. They were seeded to score 242.583 points. There was like a 6-way tie on the psych sheets. So 242 points.
What?
And what they scored was, this is great entertaining stuff. Watching me Google. They scored 288. So they still went up 46 points. Not what they usually do, but they still did improve.
Okay, never mind. I was wrong on that, but yeah.
I mean, that is muted. And at the end of the day, they don't give out trophies for who drops the most time at NCAAs. Yeah. They give out trophies for who scores the most points and swims the fastest.
Mm-hmm.
On the men's side, we have Louisville has a few swimmers coming back from Doha. Did NC State have guys in Doha as well? I think Kasper Sokowski was there. I feel like he's one really interesting swimmer who I really enjoy watching in NCAAs, but hasn't quite made the jump to long course yet. I think he's made an international final or two, but he's been kind of stuck at that 5,300 meter backstroke long course.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he will swim really, really fast at both ACCs and NCAA championships, but I hope for his sake that he can translate that to long course.
Stokowski did swim at Worlds. He wasn't super fast.
Say that again, Braden?
Stokowski did swim at Worlds. He was not super fast. He swam prelims and semis of the 100 back.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm personally very curious to see how the Notre Dame men swim. They're one of the most intriguing teams in the NCAA, in my opinion. Chris Giuliano sort of had his breakout moment last year at ACCs. And then Tanner Fillion, the D3 transfer, he could potentially do something here. That's a great story. Tate Bacon. They're just a team that's been on the rise, and usually a lot of them emerge at this meet, and I'm excited to see how they do.
The Virginia Tech men are bringing a bunch back from Worlds. Carlos Cole, Marti, basically the entire Spanish team. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all that's good. I think Quentin McCarty is due to do something big. I mean, he's already done a lot of good things this year. Abdulrahman LRB, God, I screwed that up. Skipped Worlds. He was entered in Worlds originally and scratched late. And basically his explanation was, coach said I should stay home, and I decided to be a good athlete and listen to my coach. So it seems that, that leads me to believe that they have something big lined up for championship season, whether that's this week or in a month from now. But yeah, I mean, I think the men's sprints in the ACC are going to be a lot of fun to watch too.
Right.
What else? The injury. Sorry. Am I hogging all of the time? I haven't done this in so long. I have so much to say. Yusuf Ramadan, who's swum almost no butterfly this season because he had that scooter injury, but on paper should be one of the NCAA favorites. So he's probably got to start showing something now.
It's always the college student athletes and their scooter injuries.
that happened. Well, when I was at A&M, I forget who it was, but one of the high level women broke her arm riding a bike. Somebody opened a car door and she rode into it.
Ooh.
Yeah, but college campuses and alternative modes of transportation are kind of death traps. I think that's sort of well known, and we just accept it.
Yeah, it's not going to stop anyone.
Yeah, you're either going to get injured or you're going to get your bike or your electric scooter stolen.
Okay.
Maybe if you go to college in Chicago.
Here's my big question for men's ACC specifically. 200 medley relay day 1, NC State. Who swims backstroke and who swims butterfly? Is it Casper on back and oh my gosh,
Aiden
Hayes on butterfly, or is it Aiden on back and Casper on butterfly?
I think it'll be Casper and Aiden. I think it's probably a wash on paper, so they'll just put them both where they're most comfortable.
Yeah.
Which right now for Aiden is butterfly, even though he came out of high school as a backstroker. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, see, like they've been doing all these time trials. They've been doing all these, like posting all these videos of speed. Maybe it's to throw people off, but I think it'll be Aiden Casper. I think they have something they've been working on something in the lab, and I think they think that will be the faster combination.
Coleman, I want to say you're wrong, but I don't really know how to argue with you, so.
You can just say he's wrong. Like,
yeah,
period.
Coleman, you're wrong.
You say period at the end, then he can't. Then that's it. Period.
I'm just saying we've seen a lot of 20.3 50 backs in practice from Mr. Hayes, so you know.
Love the practice swims.
Who's got a faster stopwatch, Todd DeSorbo or Braden Howley?
No, remember that one of them was with pads, like it was legit.
No touchpad has ever been. We all know how to fudge the touchpads now, thanks to high tech or whoever it is. Thanks to Liberty University, we all know how to take
swimspiracies. And then finally, our last Power 5 conference championship meet of the week will be women's Big Tens. I'm personally really excited to see how the Matt Bow Michigan women will perform and show out in his first season as head coach in Michigan, especially with Stephanie Balducini having a really solid meet in Doha. I assume she'll be swimming at Big Tens, but I actually don't know that for sure.
Doesn't seem to take anybody too long to get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel Klinker swam at a dual meet for Cal 2 days after.
That was very surprising.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how Michigan does as well, because in the past few years, it's felt like Ohio State's been here, Indiana's been here, and then Michigan's been here. I want to see if Michigan has what it takes to maybe move up from here to here, just up closer to Ohio State and Indiana. I still think Ohio State and Indiana have more depth than Michigan, but it'll be very interesting to see how much they jump, because they've made a lot of big improvements with Stephanie Balducini and a lot of Lindsay Flynn, who's been pretty good just throughout her entire career. And I forgot her name, but there's like a 500 freestyler who's pretty good. Katie Crom, I think that's her name. Yeah, they just have a lot of improving swimmers, and I'm excited to see.
Is anybody else surprised that Michigan didn't get the same sort of energy bump that we've seen from other programs that have hired coaches of Matt Bow's, caliber lately? Like when Durden took over Cal, all of a sudden they have the #1 recruiting class. Virginia and Todd DeSorbo, the Notre Dame momentum, even Pitt a little bit. It doesn't feel like Michigan has gotten that bump. And I don't know if we've gone to that well too many times in recent years, that people that the last round of exciting new head coaches is still sort of sucking the air out of the room. But I expected them to have more kind of top 10, top 15 recruits and all the fanfare that goes along with bringing in a new coach of that ability.
I mean, this wasn't because of Bao, because these recruits happened before, but they've had pretty good recruits commit. Like, I think this year she's a freshman right now, Hannah Bellard, and then next year they have Abby Dunford coming in. So those are two really good recruits. And that's more than they've gone in the past.
I am siding with Bray. I am surprised that Michigan hasn't gotten that wave yet. And I mean, if you talk to any coach, I think they will tell you that, especially on the recruiting side, it does come in waves. And so, sometimes you just get a class and then that kind of gets the momentum rolling. It also sometimes only takes one top swimmer to get that ball rolling for schools. Maybe if Matt Bao had been at Cal a couple more years and established himself as really a coach who can help win national titles for multiple years, that might have helped his street cred a little bit. But I have been surprised that the energy surrounding the program hasn't blossomed a little more. And, I've also tried to not to make too much of it. It's his first season. I think it takes 4 or 5 years to really establish what you want to do on the team, the culture of the team, as a head coach. But that's why I'm excited to see how they perform at Big Tens, because this might be their coming out party of sorts, and an opportunity certainly for Matt Bao to show what they've been working for these past 8 months.
Yeah.
And so speaking of Matt Bao and his former program, Ohio State, where he was before Cal, right? Am I making that up? Okay.
That's correct. And then he was at Indiana before that.
Yeah, it feels like the window is closing on their streak a little bit. Not that they're going to fall off a cliff or anything, but they are relying on a lot of fifth years this year. I think they're a clear favorite this year. Mm-hmm. Next year is going to be their biggest challenge yet. They get Kit Kat back. I love saying her name, Kit Kat's neck. And so I think that, her, when she announced she was coming back, I think that's probably a huge weight off of Ohio State next year. But I'm more looking for who's going to be the next Nia Funderburk, who's going to come out of nowhere and establish themselves as a force, to see if they can make it 6. I think they're going to make it 5 this year without a problem. But then next year, it's a little bit of a gap. Their recruits are good, not great, but they've also done a nice job of developing recruits. Zanik is a great example of that. She was a nice swimmer coming out of high school, but has become a Big Ten champion type swimmer. So that's what I'm looking for, the next Buckeye to carry the torch into 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the Michigan topic, but not only do they have a really good coach in Matt Bao, who's been building a really strong reputation, but Michigan's also very much a best of both worlds school, because they're very academically strong and they're also a big sports school. I mean, their football team won the national championship. So it's really, I think, just from a school standpoint, not considering the swim team, I think it's a really good destination for a lot of non-revenue athletes.
Yin, give us the Northwestern breakdown. Who's going to do it for Northwestern this year?
Ayla Spitz has been carrying the team this year. I'm excited to see how she swims in her event.
Transfer from Cal, for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, transfer from Cal. I'm not really sure about anyone else. There hasn't been anyone that's popped off that much, but I'm really just looking to see swimmers improving from where they were last year, because the Northwestern women lost a lot of their NCAA qualifiers and top performers. So this is really a rebuilding year for them. I'm more interested to seeing how the men perform in a week from now, because they've got the really good recruits. But just excited to see progress.
I Okay, I want to go back to Ohio State because it is interesting.
This format is amazing.
That like I feel like 4 years ago or 5 seasons ago when they won their first title or their first title of this streak, it was kind of like they came out of nowhere. They had a really solid conference team. And it was like, oh, this is kind of pleasant. This is a nice surprise. And then they've just continued to build off of it. And I think we've seen them do solid at NC2As, but like it's been clear that they are very much a conference built team and a conference focused team that can also do well at NCAAs and has that caliber of athlete. But that's what they're going for. And it's worked really well for about to be 5 years in a row. And I think that's very commendable. Like they chose a lane and they committed to it, and it's paid off for them. I am really curious to see how Indiana. Again, I don't think they're going to top OSU, but have some athletes who've really built some momentum. So you've got Mariah Dinnigan, who just made the Olympic team in open water. You've got Anna Poplawski, who made the World Champs team last summer. You've got Ching Wigan, who's already a great distance swimmer. And so, yeah, they have athletes.
They got divers.
They got divers. They have athletes.
Yeah. Athletes.
And so I'm interested to see if they can maybe get over that hump, and would be curious to talk to their coaches to see how much of an emphasis they are putting on that Big Ten versus NC2A, because again, we know OSU kind of goes all in for Big Tens.
Yeah. So I want to go back to talk about Northwestern. Just kidding. We don't need to talk anymore about Northwestern.
This conversation's giving me so much whiplash because like the Big Ten basketball is also like nearing its like conference stage, and Ohio State and Indiana are two of the top women's basketball teams in the Big Ten. So it's like, what sport are we talking about right now?
Oh.
Yeah, nobody cares. Caitlin Clark. That's all we want to hear about the Big Ten women's basketball tournament. It's the Caitlin Clark show. Everybody else is just supporting cast.
It's time for our favorite segment in the SwimSwam Breakdown. Yin Yin tells us about other sports aside from swimming.
Yeah, last 2 weeks ago, we broke into a whole conversation about whether Caitlin Clark would turn pro or not. That was the time.
And now she's the most scoringest champion ever.
All
right,
Caitlin Clark.
All right, who wins in a penalty shootout? JC Sheldon or Caitlin Clark?
Why JC Sheldon, out of all people?
I don't know. Why not? She seems like she's got a boot.
What if, okay. I know Caitlin Clark used to play soccer because I read a story about that.
That is our World Champs recap. That is our Power 5 conference primer for this week. Thanks for tuning into the SwimSwam Breakdown, and make sure to tune in every week for your week's news in swimming.